Ready to go?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll call the regular meeting of April 20th to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Chirco,
Here.
Councilmember Dovey,
Here.
Councilmember Gross, Councilmember Gross.
Here.
Looks like he's not on here.
Yep. Okay, give me. He's back. 1 minute. Senior audio's off again. In roll call, Councilmember Gross.
Here.
Councilmember Hasselbrink.
Here.
The invocation will be given by Councilmember Dovey.
Anya, we can't hear you. He's muted.
Oh, 1 minute. There you go. You're good to go, Tanya.
All right. I was already there. Let's get back. All right. Bow your head, close your eyes, please. Lord, I thank you for an opportunity to come and seek your wisdom and insight in our local government. I pray for those in authority from the executive level all the way down to our local government, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, discernment, and that we would lead with compassion and grace. Help us as we go through our meeting this evening. Help our city. Keep your hand over us. Keep us protected. Our first responders, our police and fire, those that are in our healthcare, all of those in our city that need help today. I pray you would extend it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. The clerk.
Anytime.
The clerk will discuss oral communications.
Okay, as posted on our agenda, oral communications, members were given a opportunity to email us in any comments before 4 o'clock to be included as part of the official record. We did not receive any emails. And additionally, members who wanted to verbally deliver comments to the City Council were instructed to notify us by email as well. And we have not received any emails for public comments.
Thank you. We'll go on to council announcements. Start with Tanya.
I've really been thinking a lot about how everyone is really just trying to do their best right now with all that's happening in our communities and in our homes with parents and children and students. And just wanted to encourage everybody that the only way we get through this together is if we get through it together. So look for a joy moment every day. Try to find something to put a smile on your face and know that we won't be here in this situation forever. One day this will be a memory, and focus on having some good memories in the midst of everything else.
Thank you. Kelly?
Yeah, just things with OCFA. We've been meeting. I've been signing emergency contracts to get PPE and face masks, protective gear and things. They've been kept pretty busy. The 8 that tested positive for COVID, 7 of them are back to work. 1 should be back to work next week, all positive. They made it through it. I was able to deliver dinners from Hortensia's last Saturday night to the police department, the fire department, Alamitos West, who has a number of cases, and then also the hospital, all very, very grateful for just some burritos and chips and salsa. They were all commenting on just the community support has been overwhelming. Some of them have been affected more than others as far as their day-to-day operations, but they all feel the love from the community. And other than that, Saturday I got stuck in a speed trap in my hallway going into my bedroom. But other than that, we're all pretty good.
Thank you. Dean?
All right, thank you. We've had several briefings with the city staff, starting back on the 24th of March, also on the April the 6th and April the 13th. I had an opportunity to participate in a policy committee meeting with the League of Cities on April the 2nd. It was actually a webinar type program that was very helpful, and I passed on to the city manager the summary of that particular event. On the 16th, I was able to attend a webinar Zoom type meeting with the California Local Elected Officials Group called CLEO. That meeting had Claremont Professor John Eastman, who talked about some of the constitutional issues that are going on and some of these executive orders that have come down on those that are legally permitted under the Constitution and those that are questionable. Anticipate that we'll see some lawsuits on that. And then I participated in the White House conference briefing for local and county elected officials on May the 15th. And I believe Chelsi from city staff also participated in that same meeting. And I forwarded the notes and updates on that also to the city manager. And that's it. Remind everybody just to stay safe. We've got a good thing going within the community with our red, white, and blue U process. I strongly encourage people to fly the American flag and put out ribbons, red, white, or blue ribbons on your trees. It really shows community spirit and that we're all in this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I participated in the budget meeting last week along with Councilmember Hasselbrink, where we talked about, along with city staff, where we talked about some of the challenges this COVID situation is presenting for our budget and our attempts to end up this year with a balanced budget. We're going to be talking about some of that tonight as well. I've been really encouraged by our community, by the response of our community to this situation, and really encouraged as well by city staff and in particular the Parks and Rec department's efforts to try to bring the community together. Last weekend they scheduled a Los Alamitos Zoo, which got a lot of participation. A lot of kids in the community were really excited by it, including my kids. And we saw a lot of adults too enjoying watching the community come together for an event like that. There's also folks in our community that are doing things that are similar to try to bring the community together. For example, for Easter, Randy Hill in the Highlands neighborhood put together an Easter egg hunt. Everybody sanitized their eggs, made sure it was properly, safe, and there was social distancing and all of that. But the community really came out for that and for other events throughout the city. So I think that's a great thing. I also want to thank everyone for doing their part in social distancing and following the instruction of our local and state and federal officials to social distance. And in particular, thank you to our nurses, our police, our doctors, our grocery workers, everyone working in an essential function and helping us all get through this. And we will get through this. and we'll be fine and we'll be stronger. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to also say what a great job by staff this past month, making the best of a bad situation. I want to encourage everybody to buy locally. You know, a lot of our friends and neighbors are just hanging on at this point, and a couple dinners here and there could make a big difference to a lot of different businesses. I've been attending a weekly mayor's meeting via phone. You can imagine 30 mayors vying for attention on one phone call is quite an event. And also I've been going to Supervisor Steele's update meeting, which is every Friday morning. I want to say to the city, I know everybody's stir crazy, but hang in there. In a couple months, this will be a bad memory, but we don't want to get to the point where we kind of blow what we've already accomplished. So hang in there, and we will go on to the items for the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As you all know, and as Dean pointed out, we've been trying to provide a constant stream of information with regards to the steps that the city is taking in order to ensure public safety, and then also to ensure just continuity of the things that we need to do on a day-to-day basis. I have asked all of the department heads and some of the staff here today to be prepared to give you kind of an outlook of just kind of what exactly has been happening in each one of their departments. I know that you've had an opportunity to hear from me, but I think it'll be good to get it from the frontline staff, hear what exactly they're going through on a day-to-day basis and how they've changed their operations, and then also just some of the interactions that they've had out there with the community. I'll echo what I heard a lot of the council say, that I've been impressed, not just with what staff has been able to pull together, but by the reaction of the community to it. And we are all in this together, and I think that we do come out stronger because of it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over actually to the chief of police to kind of give an update on the police department. But before I do that, I do want to introduce him as the 55th president of Cal Chiefs. They're just sworn in today. No more important time than to have a strong leader in charge of the police department, our local police department, but also giving us a voice that allows us to punch way above our weight with regards to resources and actually setting policy as to how exactly law enforcement is going to approach things in the coming months. So with that, first of all, Chief, congratulations. I'm very impressed. And with that, please.
Thank you. Well, actually, let me just comment real quickly on what you just said about Cal Chiefs. I can tell you one of the things we're looking at and we're dealing with, and a lot of agencies are trying to be San Clemente locally, is the people that are gathering and assembling in protest of the COVID-19 restrictions and the shelter in place or stay at home and be safe order by the governor. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at the problem with businesses being open and that may or may not be considered essential services. So that's another issue that's on the horizon. I can tell you the stance of Cal Chiefs and many of the chiefs out there is to just try to educate our people and gain compliance with the law versus having to cite them. Our legal has told us that, if you start trying to close down businesses, you will get a lawsuit from them probably. And better just to try to get an injunction, go through the court and work it out that way. So there are a number of issues we're working on that wouldn't seem all that important necessarily at this point, but they are becoming more and more of an event, if you will, throughout our state and our country. But locally here, we started to make sure our patrol officers had PPE accessible to them long before COVID-19. And so they've already had training on how to put on PPE and have that PPE there. On March 4th, when the governor, declares the state of emergency, on that same date, we started to make sure our patrol officers had the PPE with them in their cars and accessible to them at all times, but weren't really telling them that how to wear it or how to put that on or when to put it on, or policy necessarily. Excuse me, necessarily. On March 13th, our city manager proclaims a local emergency. And on the same day, I sent out a department memorandum on COVID-19 in terms of the police response, protection, and reporting. The information that I was passing through was not only gleaned from our emergency services coordinator, Robert Acosta, but through the CDC and the Orange County Healthcare Agency, emails that I received, and also some of the website material. And then on March 17th, I did a modification to that same memo, which was issued after reaching out to a number of Orange County agencies, as well as Cal Chief agencies for best practices to be used when utilizing to reduce their police personnel from exposures to COVID-19. It was determined at that time Los Alamitos would close their police lobby due to public distancing issues that were obvious. Once you step in that lobby, you're not 6 feet away from anybody. And the real fear of spreading that COVID-19 within our building. On that same day, our emergency services coordinator opened our EOC, or maybe a day before, to the lowest operational level in accordance with the city's declaration of emergency. On April 7th, Captain Byerly implemented augmented staff scheduling, and essentially it goes like this. Our public affairs community liaison person, Hannah Martinez, was told to work from home remotely. Property evidence records people, Mandy and Gina are now on what we call an A shift, Alpha or Bravo shift. So they're working, but they're working not in the same room at the same time. So we limit their exposure to each other. Police aides, we had to reduce our police aides. We had one that our senior police aide that resigned because of other issues, not because of being told of the issues of COVID-19 with us, but because of her full-time work issues. And then we had another police aide. We had to tell them to stay home, 2 of them. And we have one that's working right now with us to do all the ferrying of vehicles and all those things that we did. We stopped doing the parking enforcement, obviously, because people are all home now, and it's the right thing to do. Back in March. And then for executive support, I have finally sent Veronica back to her house to work remotely. She only comes in when she needs to collect actual physical papers for certain things. Our detectives are working remotely, except for trying to file some very few cases that the courts are allowing at this point. And let me see, what else have we done? During this operational period, our service level has not diminished. We have responded to all priority 1 calls for service and most of the priority 2 calls for service. Our officers have been involved in a number of arrests, some with felony suspects and stolen car, 3 to 4 subjects, capering around neighborhoods. I think the Mayor Pro Tem is aware of that. I got a text message with some nice photograph of the guys being detained by our officers the other day on Sunday. We've gone on trespassing call just recently. I think Councilman Gross, you had asked the city manager about the code 3 call just prior to this meeting. They're heading over to Mr. C's because a disgruntled person that had his car impounded jumped over the fence and was trying to take his car back. And so we arrested him just before this meeting, and he was cited out and released in the field. There have also been several drive-by, if you call them drive-by birthday wishes that our officers have been involved with and 2 LAMC employee recognition events. And to be honest with you, we received an outpouring of support from our community that's unbelievable. It reminds me of during the times when the 9/11 occurred, with food, drinks, cards, verbal well wishes, to include our council member Hasselbrink. And we had one officer that was out for about 14 days still, quarantined because we thought maybe it was a COVID-19 situation. He tested at LAMC. 9 days later, he came back negative, so he's back to work, full duty. And that is my report, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next, can I go to OCFA? Chief?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members, city staff. This is Ron Roberts, Orange County Division 1. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. I hope you're all healthy and well. I will I'll try and stay as brief as I can. I know you've got a lot to cover tonight, but the OCFA continues to respond to calls for service in the community. We've changed the way we respond as far as our PPE goes. We have added some questions that our dispatchers are asking our callers to try and prepare our crews for the potential of an exposure. As Councilmember Hasselbrink shared, our numbers are good. We have all but one firefighter who have tested positive are back to work. We have not had one patient to firefighter transfer of this virus. This virus is coming from within, so obviously that's causing us some concern. Our other area of concern is the acquisition of personal protective equipment. We're able to do it. We have it coming in, but as you can imagine, we're monitoring very closely how we're burning it or what our burn rate is per day. We're not noticing any spike in that. We're staying constant, as well as our daily calls for service are remaining fairly constant. We are also monitoring our patient offload times at the hospitals. We're not seeing a jump in those. We're seeing adequate hospital beds available, and we're also watching our staffing very closely. Thank you again to Councilmember Hasselbrink for the dinner on Saturday night. The crews were very appreciative of that. And with that, I'll end my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to go to the acting Deputy City Manager, Ron.
Evening, Mayor, City Council members, fellow staff. I'm going to share some of the stuff that we're doing with Emeline here, but the things that I'm going to highlight is, so I met with school district staff to talk about our joint use facilities of the IJUA. So we're on par to do that. We're going to meet again, hopefully in a couple weeks, with the staff over there to kind of hammer out some of the details before we present it back to you as the City Council. Working on employee IDs and the directory. We're kind of hitting a snag with some of the cards, but we're continue working on that. Robert Acosta here took the big lead of setting up our EOC, but I assisted him in a couple things. So, thank you to Robert on that. And that just update that most of our staff is working remotely. We do come in, like I usually come in every day. Emeline comes in about 3 times a week to get some stuff done here, but we are working remotely. But the vast majority of our recreation leaders, because our community center is not open, we don't have any programs or going anything like that, the vast majorities are not working right now. We only have our high level part-timers and of course the full-timers working. And when it's Emily's turn, she'll talk about what they're doing specifically. And I guess some of you guys mentioned it. I know Councilmember Gross mentioned it, but we are doing the Red, White, Blue, and You campaign. That's a big task that we're doing. I think you are all aware that we have banners, we have flags out, we have lawn signs, we sent out a postcard to all the addresses in Los Alamitos. We're still doing ribbons. Today we had staff out there. We're having staff out there going out tomorrow. They're mysteriously disappearing. I don't know if people aren't taking the ribbons. We have lawn signs disappearing as well. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but hopefully if they are taking it, they're maybe hopefully tying it to their own residence or something like that. And then of course, last week, the chief mentioned it. We were part of the hospital thank you that we went out and thanked the medical employees over at Los Alamitos Medical. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Emeline, I know you have some additional things to add.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I do have a lengthy list here, so I'm going to try and go very quick. We did close our community center on March 13th. Our classes and programs. We canceled Weekend of Art, Spring Carnival, and Teen Expo. We went virtual with our community center. If you're aware and follow us on social media, we're doing a lot of our contract classes. We have free classes online. We're doing a lot of staff videos, planning, filming, editing, doing activities such as the LaSalle Zoo, spring break activities, history of LaSalle, 60 seconds with staff. We did a Facebook Live with Peter Rabbit. That was kind of in place of Spring Carnival. And we're also sharing a lot of the nonprofits and different community members on our stories, just to promote what they're doing as well in the community. For our preschool, we're sending out weekly packets to our preschool parents so they can do with the little ones. Weekly, we are offering our senior grocery program. Our police department is also assisting us. Thank you. We're distributing to about 175 households. We also do senior wellness calls every 2 weeks. So these are the few programs that our recreation leaders do come in to facilitate here at the community center. We are still in summer planning mode. We have decided to go online for our summer recreation brochure, so you will not be seeing that in the mail. That is due to the fact that we need to keep that updated, so it's easier to update if it is an online document. So we will be sending out a postcard for everybody to check online on the website. We will, at the moment, we're still planning to start our day camp program and parks program with social distancing, but we will, be aware of all of the phases and the guidelines and make sure that we're, doing all the right protocol. Our adult sports session is going to be a half of the weeks that it normally is during the summer. Our contract classes is normally 8 weeks, and we decided to split them up into 2 4-week sessions so that in the event that we have to cancel our classes, it's easier to refund. It's also, a cheaper cost for someone to participate because, people are out of work. We're also revising our scholarship program so that we can help more families when we resume activities so that they can participate. As you can imagine, we are processing hundreds of refunds. That is taking up a lot of time for Trini and a lot of the staff. Tying lots of ribbons. We've rescheduled events. So in the fall, don't be surprised if you get an email every other week to attend another event, because we've had to reschedule everything to the fall. Done here, our summer staff service in-service training and updating our employee manual. So we're getting ready for that. We're updating our department marketing plan, updating press releases for classes. And we met with our Serve LaSalle committee, which was everybody really appreciated just to be able to connect. Some organizations are lacking resources, and they were able to discuss like who can support who and who still has supplies and that type of thing. So we're staying very busy, and we're very appreciative of everything that's going on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Leslie.
Okay, there we go. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, staff. Just wanted to let you know that Development Services continues to do the work of the city, still issuing permits, doing some inspections, going out on code enforcement calls if necessary. We do have staff telecommuting from home. I usually have at least one staff member in the office every day. I have indicated I really don't want more than 2. If you've been into our side of City Hall, it's pretty small, so it's a little bit hard to keep that distance at all times. But we do have people in there we do have somebody in there every day. Public Works continues to be out and about in the city. Their priority are any kind of essential work that needs to be done, so they do that first. And observing social distancing, you should see them with face masks on, and as they continue to do their work. Wednesday, we will be having our first Zoom Planning Commission meeting. So we do continue to move things forward, and I'm sure that'll be a very interesting experience as well. And specific to keeping the community updated and informed, staff did do some work for the website on a couple of different issues. We created a restaurant list for the website. Staff called each restaurant to find out what their hours were and if they were open and available for takeout. Did the same for the grocery store list, and included some of our nearby stores in Seal Beach that we know that our folks do frequent. And just recently, last week, we finished a resource for our businesses on the website, sort of a one-stop shop to provide links to small business loans at the different levels, state and federal levels. And hopefully that will be helpful for everybody. And in trying to stay abreast of what other cities are doing, I've started to meet Zoom meetings weekly with other community development directors in the county to see what issues they've come up with, what their solutions are, and how they're starting to look forward to recovery and resiliency for their cities. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go over to Craig from Finance.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and staff members. The city for 2 months ago. Actually, today is the 2 months. And in that regard, my primary focus has been on budgeting and forecasting. I've pleasure of meeting Zoom calls with the Budget Standing Committee 2 times. First time was on March 23rd, and that was to provide a year report for 1920. It was basically reference it as our baseline report. And then about 3 weeks following that, and this prior Monday, on April 14th, I met with them again to provide the general fund financial forecast and update. Basically, this was to the update for the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting impacts that it's had on the economic base and sales tax and other revenues. I'll be looking forward to preparing the operating and CIP budgets for fiscal year 2021 very shortly. I have a staff of 2. We work mostly remotely. I'm in the office most every day. I've scheduled my staff so we're all kind of missing each other, but they come in from time to time based on a schedule to pick up reports and whatever we need to process warrants and payroll. Oversee the day-to-day operations. We're continuing to do the banking deposits as the money comes in. The money, we're keeping that flowing. Also maintaining accurate accounting records for all the city's funds. Processing, reviewing, and approving AP warrants. We produce about 150 per month, and that number is greatly increased. As Emeline referenced that we're including a lot of processing a lot of refunds for classes and events. Also process and approve payroll, got about 170, including all the part-time that we produce twice a month. And we're providing assistance to operating departments on questions on accounting, budgeting numbers and things like that. We're also trying to catch up on a lot of the other reports that we're kind of set aside, making sure that those don't get behind, and also try to plan for year-end reporting, which is right around the corner. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good. We'll go to Wendy.
Thank you, Council. In the City Clerk's office, our main goal has been to provide relevant, up-to-date information. We've been routinely updating the city's website to get a more active role in our social media to ensure our community is well informed and knows what we're still here and happy to engage with them. There's been an increase in email inquiries and phone calls from our residents and businesses. In most cases, the requests are acknowledged within 24 hours and a response is provided within 48 hours. Residents have been grateful that we're still here and available and that we can provide them an overview of our operations and that we have the website as a resource so they can read more in detail on their specific concerns. My office has also been working with all the department secretaries to ensure the city commission meetings continue to happen in an open and transparent manner, while still abiding by the governor's orders for social distancing. I've researched the best options for video conferencing, trained our staff on best practices, and are reaching out to our commissioners to ensure they have everything they need and are as comfortable as possible in this new meeting format. Providing our community with every opportunity possible to engage with their legislative bodies remains our top priority. And the city clerk's office is always happy to help and encourages the community to reach out with any questions or concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, go to Chelsea real quick.
Hi there. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My main focus has been assisting the city manager as well as my human resources tasks. For assisting the city manager, I've been working with the league and tracking a lot of legislation. I've been collecting information, sending out letters of support, and today, for instance, I sat on a call that was regarding the negotiations of the next stimulus bill. I've been following up and working with Robert Acosta on cost recovery assistance and putting together an agreement with the Martinet group that will assist with our cost recovery. And as Councilmember Gross referred to, I was sitting on a call, the White House briefing call. For human resources, I was working on the telecommuting policy and the employee agreement that allowed all of our employees all the employees that can work from home are able to work from home and flex their schedules when necessary to come into the office. And also studying and communicating the new Families First COVID-19 Response Act that went into effect on April 1st, which is the emergency sick leave for all employees. So I've been answering questions and working on that. I've also worked with Robert Acosta on putting a plan in place for testing for employees if somebody by chance is to become ill. And this week, we also activated some of our part-time employees to become emergency disaster service workers that will assist in our recovery efforts. All of our employees have been able to adapt to this new work schedule really well, and we're happy with the fact that we haven't missed a beat. I've also continued to do the risk management side, working on liability claims, and continue with those efforts. And I've also assisted with recreation with tying ribbons, and out at the hospital was showing my support. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mayor, that's the gist of my report, actually. I just wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to hear it from the people that are actually doing the work on a daily basis. And, you know, again, not to keep beating a dead horse, but it's been very impressive just the way that everyone's come together and the amount of work that is getting done. So obviously under less than ideal circumstances.
Thank you. If you run out of employees to make reports, we're going to go on to the warrant. May I have a motion for the warrants, please?
I'll move it.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chirco?
Aye.
Councilmember Dovey?
Aye.
Councilmember Gross?
Aye.
Councilmember Hasselbrink?
Aye.
We'll move on to the consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon by one motion unless the council member requests separate action on specific items. Anybody have anything to pull? Seeing none?
I'll move approval.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chirco?
Aye.
Councilmember Dovey?
Aye.
Councilmember Gross?
Aye.
Councilmember Hasselbrink?
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll go on to number 10. Discussion item, general fund projections for fiscal year 2019 and 2020. You have the Chet.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So, Council, the item you have before you today is essentially the mid-year budget review, and also will give us the opportunity to kind of close out 1920 as we look forward to 2021. Craig mentioned already, and I know a number of you have already mentioned, that modeling, forecasting in this environment is incredibly difficult, given the almost honestly hourly changing stance from both the federal and the state government with regards to when businesses might be up and running, the different stimulus packages that are under negotiation, and also the guidance that's being given to state and local municipalities from the Treasury Department with regards to how different aspects of the CARE Act is going to be administered, and also just the different elements of what is going into what's being called the Stimulus 3.5 and 4.0 packages that are currently being negotiated in Congress. That being said, and I'll let Craig get into this a little bit deeper, we have met with the Budget Subcommittee on 2 occasions. The first meeting was to essentially establish a baseline to really get a good picture of what that snapshot of what our economy was doing here locally, and to make sure that we had a really good understanding of where exactly that was prior to the events that have taken place. And then the second meeting to layer in all of the changes that are currently taking place due to the COVID-19 and the response from various levels of government. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Craig, but I do want to say that this process obviously leads us into our major budget process for setting up next year's budget. I don't see this as a short term or something that's going to be over quickly. We will get to a budget and we will get one approved. That being said, given the situation, I think that we are going to have a lot of budget discussions going forward, and it will be a constant back and forth between myself and you in order to ensure that, you know, our projections are correct, that we're tracking the way that we think that we were going to track, and that we're constantly checking in with ourselves to make sure that we have accounted for all of the different elements that are taking place. So this is all by way of saying that I think that we're going to be in a budget cycle for a long period of time, simply because the old way of doing it just won't be able to give us the comfort of knowing that we know exactly where our numbers are. So I know that a lot of this will be regurgitating a lot of facts and data that you already know, and I just ask that you bear with us as we start this process, and know that it's going to be one that's going to go on for a long time, especially past the time when the doors to businesses are open. It'll continue because we obviously will be going through the recovery effort and making sure that we're able to access every dollar that we can. With that, and I'll turn it over to Craig.
Okay, thank you. I have a short PowerPoint for council. Is that up?
You have the ability to share your screen.
Okay, let me do that. Having trouble connecting that.
Is it the same PowerPoint as went to the Budget Standing Committee?
There's a couple of changes. Let me, I can shoot it to you, Wendy. Would that be best, maybe?
Yes.
Okay, hang on.
Are you down here? Wendy?
I think I just sent it to you. See you, Wendy?
Yes, sir. One moment.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're up. Is it up now, Wendy?
I see it on my screen. Do you guys see it on your screen?
I can see it.
That's good. All right. Thank you. For the record, Craig Kohler, Interim Finance Director. Good evening again, Mayor and Council. So tonight I'd like to go through the general fund financial forecast for tonight, April 20th. You'll have to advance the slides, Wendy.
I'm on slide 3.
You're showing on slide 1, Wendy.
It's still the cover.
Okay.
Go to 2. Okay. Well, one back. Perfect. Okay, so the focus of tonight's presentation will be to review the general fund financial forecast. We want to look at and discuss the operational impacts that have arisen from COVID-19, and then the regulatory responses and the impacts that have come about as well. Slide 3. So, in looking at the operational impacts, there's been a significant reduction in revenues, primarily sales and use taxes. We have received updated numbers from HDL that have showed us that there's been a significant decline in sales and use taxes and a projection that will be less than our budget. I'll review those numbers in a minute. Also, there's been a reduction in the transit occupancy tax, TOT, and charges for services. Conversely, there's been also a reduction in cost. This is primarily from vacant positions, cancellation of events, classes from a recreation standpoint, and then resulting part-time staffing reductions as well. Okay, slide 4. So as you recall, when I first initially met with the Budget Standing Committee on the March 23rd meeting, we were looking at a projection for ending up the fiscal year 1920 with a positive change in fund balance of about $567,000. Moving to slide 5. So, and focusing on the revenues first, the first column is the 2019-2020 amended budget. Was that projected at $14,430,000. We first report to the Budget Standing Committee, so we're projecting $14,454,000, slight.
I tell you what, Bill, I'm now down again.
And then the current projection, significantly down, projecting $13,754,000.
Hey, Leroy, this is Randall. Thanks for joining us.
You can see over in the far right column, that's the variance from the current projection compared to the budget. The biggest reductions are going to be in sales and use taxes of approximately $484,000. The transit occupancy tax about $102,000, and then charges for services about $140,000 decline. Next slide. So we're on slide 6. As you just recall, as we showed, the preliminary general fund projection was showed a positive $567,000 increase. That was primarily due to salary savings, and I'll review those, highlight those in a second. The new projection reflects reduction in revenues. The largest reductions are going to be in sales and use taxes, down $484,000. On a statewide sales trending numbers, the main 4 categories: general consumer goods. They're reporting that the first quarter is going to be down 15%, followed by quarter 2, which will be ending in June, down 45%. Restaurants, hotels, fourth quarter down 10%, second quarter down approximately 60%. Building construction, first quarter down 7%, and second quarter ending June down 40%. In county pools, we'll see a slight increase for first quarter, 15%, second quarter up by 10%. Other revenue reductions, COT is going to be down 102,000, and charges for services a decline of 140,000. Slide 7. Looking at the expenditure side, again, the first column is the amended budget for 2019-20. Total of $14,430,000. March 23rd report, second column to the right, showed or indicated that we were looking at $13,887,000, and under the current projection, further decreased $13,750,000, about $754,000. Biggest decreases in the departmental expenses are police down about $408,000, development services down $127,000, and then recreation community services we'll see a projection of a decrease of $182,000 for fiscal year June 19-20. Slide 8. So on a departmental cost highlight, the police will see approximately $408,000 below budget, and this is primarily due to vacant positions. Development services, again, vacant position, which is the director position, a decrease of about $127,000. This is partially offset by the contracting director that's under contract services. And then recreation community services, approximately $180,000 below budget. And that's primarily due to cancellation of events, classes, and then the resulting part-time cost. Looking at CIP, there's been no funding for general fund expenditure type CIPs. The large ones that were listed, example, police cameras, lobby hardening, the men's locker room are basically on hold. Any funding for CIP has been primarily done through the other funding mechanisms. Slide 9. So in response to this, there's been some regulatory issues and then primarily some important impacts from the state. We'll review the state regulatory issues first, or responses. First one is the governor's executive order. There's two parts to this program. The first one is they're allowing a 90-day sales tax payment extension. And what this equates to is that for the 326 potential accounts within the city limits, or 61% of the total accounts impacted, if their liability is less than $50,000 in tax liability for the first quarter through March 31, they're allowed to defer that payment for 60 days, and which would mean that the city wouldn't receive it until after June. That's an additional decrease of $426,000. In connection with that 90-day sales tax deferment, these same businesses, or about 312 potential accounts, could enter into an installment payment plan, or an IPA, with the state. And this would be about 38% of the total accounts impacted. Well, this would allow these same accounts to essentially pay that same first quarter liability spread it over 12 months. The effect of most of this is cash flow for fiscal year 19-20. The first 90-day deferment would be received within fiscal year 19-20 on a modified accrual basis, because the city would be able to capture revenues 60 days beyond the fiscal year end. And since these payments, $426,000, would be essentially paid by July 31st, the city would recoup that money for 19-20. However, the balance would be spread over the 12-month period, and that's the impact of a decrease of $275,000. That city wouldn't receive that money until fiscal year 2021. The first installment for any of those businesses electing to enter into the IPA will be due July 31st, 2020. The final payment would be stretched out to July 31st of 21. If there's payments are still not received within this time frame, then the state will start accruing interest and penalties, and the city would also benefit from that. Slide 10, please. So there's also been regulatory responses from the federal level as well, also known as the CARES Act. We've seen 3 rounds of the stimulus bills already issued, as the city manager referenced and Chelsea also referenced. We're working on the 4th and additional rounds of the stimulus. There's been no direct allocation to populations less than 500,000 size. But we're anticipating that the subsequent bills will allow for allocations that the city can take advantage of. Example of typical funding that could occur. Example here is through CDBG or HUD program. A $5 billion funding would be allocated, split with $2 billion with their regular formula, 70% communities, 30% states, followed by additional $1 billion, which is under a new formula. And this is basically cases compared to national average or economic and housing market disruptions, other factors. And then the final $2 billion would be under a new formula yet to be developed by HUD. This additional money would be used to reimburse allowable costs incurred by a state or locality, and then allocation would be made on a go-forward rolling basis. Other large funding programs we're going to be seeing is through FEMA, of course, $45 billion, and then SBA program for about $350 billion. Next slide. So just to recap, the projections are based on the most likely scenarios that we have. And the best numbers that we have to date. Includes updated data from HDL. Layered into this is also some support from Beacon Economics. Includes a number of other assumptions, estimates to represent, of course, worst case scenarios. And it's our beliefs that the results for fiscal year 1920 could be plus or minus $150,000 to $250,000. Next slide. So next steps, if you're looking forward, we'll be working on and compiling the fiscal year 2021 budget model, updating the 10-year long-term forecast, reflecting known reductions in sales and use tax and other revenues, reflect other reductions as we deems necessary, include modeling for potential sales tax increase and any available funding that we see the city benefiting from federal aid programs. And the last slide. And that concludes the report, and the recommendation is to receive and file a general fund financial forecast for fiscal year 1920, and look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
Any questions? No
Craig,
questions?
we don't have any, real quick, we don't have any projections because it's too premature on how CalPERS is going to be affected by this.
No, myself and I think city manager and also David Kane have viewed the webinar that was put out about a week ago. They're reminding all agencies that even though their portfolio has decreased by 5%, it's just a paper number by now. We're in for the long run and looking forward to how the portfolio recovers. We don't have, in response to your question, we don't have any estimates for long-term effect on the CalPERS at this time.
Okay, I know I sat on a board of directors meeting for League of California Cities on Friday with, the state leaders, Umberg's office and T.T. Norris and stuff, and it was pretty silent, but they know the gravity of the problem for all cities and agencies, even to maybe amortize it longer again, which we've been asking for and various things like that. But I don't even think they can get their head around a number right now.
Yeah, I've not seen anything come out.
To that, I might just add that they, during that conference call that we had with CalPERS, they were, I'll call it, less than encouraging with regards to what exactly they might do in terms of offering solutions to the legislature and to the governor's office. They made it pretty clear that their mission is to, to continue to keep the fund intact, but a number of city managers and as a group, we've also petitioned them to actually look into a series of different models or different actions that they can take in the short term that will have long-term effects, such as CPI increases, and also, as you mentioned, changing the formula as to how exactly those numbers are calculated in the first place.
All right, we'll wait one more.
I know in the meeting that we had, there's no compelling reason for PERS to do anything. This is going to have to come at a state level, and constantly just in with our state legislators about doing anything, because CalPERS, what's the reason for them to change anything? It's money that's owed, and bankrupting cities is, not even in their realm of dealing with or anything. So this is definitely going to be us, working closely with everybody in the California legislature to help us, because it's going to devastate cities of all sizes.
Thank you. Anybody else? Craig, I'd like to ask, have you ever seen a more fluid budget situation in your career?
Never. Not all my, I won't state the number of years, but never in my career have I seen so much fluidity and change, progressive change that's occurred over the last month and a half. It's just unprecedented.
Well, thank you for the report. Do you know when we'll start talking about the next budget?
So if I can, Mayor, we are actually putting together a budget schedule right now. We plan to be back in front of the budget subcommittee the first week of May. And the reason for that, and I know that I did point this out, I know to the budget standing committee that it seems like we are moving at glacier-like speed with regards to this process. It's simply that I want to have good information for you to be able to make informed decisions off of. The modeling that we got for our last meeting, we got a few days before the meeting. Then we had another meeting with HDL on last Thursday to try to shore up those numbers. We are now going forward and actually putting those projections and those models together for the 2020-2021 budget. So I anticipate that we will be to you most likely the second week in May in order to give you an update as to where exactly we stand on the 2020-2021 process. But I have planned to have some dates out to everybody by tomorrow.
Thank you. I realize you only have to answer 3 questions. One is, when does the state open up? 2, will the pandemic cease? And 3, once we do open up, what will the response of the citizens be? So we understand why what you're doing this week is almost scratch paper next week.
Thank you, sir.
Very welcome. Okay, Steve, we will receive and file as per the recommendation. And I will make a motion to adjourn to the May 4th meeting. I could have a second. Thank you. Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, did you get a second?
I'll second it.
So the motion by Mayor Murphy, seconded by Councilmember Hasselbrink, to adjourn the meeting to May 4th at 5 o'clock. We have roll call. Mayor Murphy.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Chirco. Oh, he's muted. Sorry. 1 moment.
Best thing you've done all night, Wendy.
Mayor Pro Tem Chirco.
Aye.
Councilmember Doby.
Aye.
Councilmember Gross.
Aye.
Councilmember Hasselbrink.
Aye.
Okay, we will see you all May 4th. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.